Hi, everybody. This is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? I'm hanging in. This is my pencil case, by the way. Cute, right? She, he, whatever. I didn't come on and do a video yesterday because something very odd happened here around 11 o'clock-ish. The lights started to flicker, and then I heard a humongous boom, explosion type lightning kind of event happen outside. And then the house shook a lot. Like 2 of my canvases fell off my wall. That takes a lot for anything to fall off the walls here. I put it out on social media asking anybody with Citizen app and whatever have you to see if that was an earthquake or, you know, a transformer, anything. 24 hours later, almost nothing. A friend from the military told me it could have been a sonic boom from an aircraft, and I'm pretty much leaning on that. Pretty much. Yeah, so I'm leaning on that analogy. But they kept me up all night. And then I'm taking care of a neighbor's dog. So I have to go in 4 times a day, and 2 times is really severely early in the morning. And I just couldn't have my eyes focused on anything. And then I relaxed the majority of today, getting back into things. Today, just want to move that. Back to Urantia. And I usually jump around to different books. I don't really do back-to-backs, but the reason being is that I did cut it short so I could get other content in. So like we ended with Supreme Being, but then I didn't go into God Sevenfold and finish that whole section out. And then the personality of the Universal Father, I think all of that is still very relevant and needing to be read. So we're going to go back into that. And I hope you're ready. Before I begin, though, please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. I hope to do a gem, pick a card oracle tomorrow at some point. Those take me a little bit longer because I do 3 readings all in one video. And then I have to sit and timestamp everything so that you're not sitting there wasting time watching all of them. So I have to do that. I'm doing a lot of research when I am awake. And then a lot of things happen in the world today. For censorship's sake, we're watching a movie. Everything's been inverted. Everything you know is inverted. So the people you think are bad are actually good, and the people that are good are actually bad. I'm not from that part of the world, but I can tell you right now, there's a lot going on. When someone says that there's going to be a pandemic, and then there's a tabletop exercise over it, it happened to us. And then another one. Well, there's some United States labs overseas in that area that they took out. And then they have to ask yourselves, why is a certain place that we thought was a nuclear radiation all over the place, everybody left and fled, why is that being taken over? You've been lied to. Taiwan is next. They're getting rid of the swamp creatures. And again, who you think is evil is not. And it's because of the narrative that you watch being programmed into your head. It's what I keep talking about constantly. MK Ultra, Project Monarch. You're being bombarded. Shut it off. Do your research. It's not hard. There's a lot of places that are not the year after I was born with, deleting and changing stories and history. Our real history has not been given and divulged to any of us. And we're soon going to find out the real truth and our real history. And that's what I'm trying to unfold with all these books. Trying. And I know there's a lot of people who are already exposed to all this critical thinking, thinking outside the box, studying these books more in depth than me. Believe me. I get a lot of emails and a lot of comments of beautiful people who are well read on all these books. You can come on my channel and discuss it and share your insights. I would love to have you. I'm serious. I like when people like seriously sit and study these books and can give their own perspective on it. Again, it's all about sharing perspectives. Everybody sees something differently and interprets words differently and interprets texts differently. And that's the beauty of why I do what I do. Because there's not a right or a wrong. It's coming together and looking at something objectively and then picking it apart. So getting back to Urantia, we're going to read God the Sevenfold. To atone for affinity of status and to compensate for creature limitations of concept, the Universal Father has established the evolutionary creature's sevenfold approach to deity. Just like in the keys of Enoch. I paused because I want to show you this because there's a lot of new people that haven't seen the keys of Enoch. This is not the book of Enoch. This is the keys of Enoch. Keys of Enoch. Okay. Key 118. God's plan has no end. It is life in the house of many mansions. Now, Paradise Sons. And then all up, you see the office of the Christ. And putting that there so you can see what I'm talking about when I'm referencing the keys of Enoch. So somebody is onto something. Because it says, number one, the Paradise Creator Sons. The Ancients of Days. The Seven Master Spirits. The Supreme Being. God the Spirit, God the Son, God the Father. Just know, we got correlating books showing you very similar things, just worded differently. A wasp be the same. It's all interpreted, but there's a lot of commonalities in all these books. And if you watch the Emerald Tablet and the Anunnaki, yes, Creator created our soul, our essence, our ether, our spirit. The Anunnaki, the creator gods, under Archangel Michael, came here to create our meat suits. I know that's a hard topic to touch upon, but I'm just giving you my thinking as I'm unfolding all these fun books. Now back to Urantia. After I fix my teeth. The sevenfold deity, personalization in time and space, and to the seven super universes, enables mortal men to obtain the presence of God, who is spirit. This sevenfold deity, to infinite time space creates, sometimes power personalizing in super being, is the functional deity of the mortal evolutionary creatures of the Paradise Ascension career. Like I said, they all hold offices. Such an experimental discovery career of the realization of God beings with the recognition of divinity of the creator son of the local universe and ascends through the super universe, ancients of days, and by way of the person of one of the seven master spirits to the attainment of the discovery and recognition of the divine personality of the universal Father on Paradise. The grand universe is a threefold deity, domain of the Trinity of supremacy, God, the sevenfold, and the Supreme Being. God, the Supreme, is potential in the Paradise Trinity, from whom he derives his personality and spirit attributes, but he is now actualizing in the Creator Sons, Ancients of Days, and the Master Spirits, from whom he derives his power as Almighty to the super universes of time and space, their density. This power manifestation of the immediate God of evolutionary creatures, actually time-space evolves concomitantly with them. Concomitantly, I believe. The Almighty Supreme evolving on the value level of non-personal activities and the spirit person of God, the supreme are one reality, the supreme being. The creator sons and the deity association of God and the sevenfold provide the mechanism whereby the mortal becomes immortal and the finite obtains the personality mobilization, the divine synthesis of all these manifold transactions, thus enabling the finite to obtain the absonite and through other possible future actualizations to attempt the attainment of the ultimate. The creator sons and their associated divine ministers are participants in the supreme mobilization. By the ancients of days and the seven master spirits are probably eternally fixed as permanent administrators in the grand universe. The function of God, the sevenfold dates from the organization of the seven superuniverses, and it will probably expand in connection with the future evolution of the creations of outer space. The organization of these future universes of the primary, secondary, tertiary, and quartan space levels of progressive evolution will undoubtedly witness the inauguration of the transcendent and absonite approach to deity. So if you think about it, right, the majority of the souls, the spirits that inhabit meat suits, have been stuck in a 3D reality paradigm for a few cycles, which are 25,000 years apiece. And we've probably been stuck in these meat suits, unless we're envoys, for over 75,000 years. So God hasn't been able to harvest souls to move up in densities. And yes, the universes of billions of universes that are created by elite souls of the higher densities, they need higher density souls to encompass their experiment and help out and become the stars. But you can't do that if all the souls are stuck in third density, not being allowed to quantum leap. Because eventually, many of us who obtain that highest level of density will be able to partake in creating a universe. I know it seems crazy, but our souls are immortal and they keep cycling back. This is just a temporary suit that we wear. Once it dies, we go back up. Some people come back down. Some people stay up there, do a couple of jobs, and then come back down. Eventually, we're not going to have to come back down because many of us will ascend and will go on to 4, 5, 6, 7D and then work our way up from there. And those have their own time cycles, different from our time lineage space. So it's just really interesting to see. It's not the end all be all, but not just one deity entity creates the universe. It's an experiment. And then we go down and play these roles in our experimental bodies. And God sees and experiences life through us because we are a part of God. Hope this is making sense. I repeat myself a whole bunch in hopes that eventually it kicks in. And again, you don't need to resonate with that and you don't need to believe in that. But there's just way too much in these writings from different books that are leading in that direction. Just saying. God, the ultimate. Just as the supreme being progressively evolves from the antecedent divinity, endowment of the encompassed grand universe potential of energy and personality, so does God, the ultimate, eventuate from the potentials of divinity residing the transcended time-space dominions of the master universe. Kind of, sort of just went over that. The actualization of the ultimate deity signalizes abstinent unification of the first experimental Trinity and signifies unifying deity expansion on the second level of creative self-realization. This constitutes the personality power equivalent of the universe experimental deity actualization of paradise abstinent realities on the eventuating levels of transcended time-space values. The completion of such an experimental unfoldment is designed to afford ultimate service destiny for all time-space creatures who have obtained absolute levels through the completed realization of the Supreme Being and by ministry of God, the Sevenfold. What I literally just explained is you moving up in consciousness. And if you're deemed the soul who got it right and lived very righteously and did what they could for humanity while they were here, you're moving on up, moving on up. But that's not just determined by Creator, that's determined by the beings who control this realm. God, the ultimate, is designative of personal deity functioning on the divinity levels of the abstinent and on the universal spheres of super time and transcended space. The ultimate is a super supreme eventuation of deity. The supreme is the Trinity unification comprehended by finite beings. The ultimate is the unification of the Paradise Trinity comprehended by abstinent beings. The Universal Father, through the mechanism of evolutionary deity, is actually engaged in this stupendous and amazing act of personality focalization and reality values of the finite, the abstinent, and even of the absolute. The first three and past eternal deities of paradise, the Universal Father, the Eternal Son, and the Infinite Spirit, are in the eternal future to be personality complemented by the experimental actualization of associated evolutionary deities, God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and possibly God the Absolute. God the Supreme and God the Ultimate, now evolving in the experimental universes, are not existential, not past eternals, only future eternals, time-space conditioned and transcendental conditioned eternals. They are deities of supreme, ultimate, and possibly supreme ultimate endowments, but they have experienced historic universe origins. They will never have an end, but they do have personality beginnings. They are indeed actualizations of eternal and infinite deity potentials, but they themselves are neither unqualified, eternal, nor infinite. Very interesting. God the Absolute. There are many features of the eternal reality of the Deity Absolute, which cannot be fully explained to the time-space finite mind. But the actualization experimental Trinity, the Absolute Trinity. This would constitute the experimental realization of absolute divinity, the unification of absolute meanings on absolute levels, but are not certain regarding the encompassment of all absolute values, since we have no time been informed that the qualified absolute is the equivalent of the infinite. Super ultimate destinies are involved in absolute meanings and infinite spirituality. And without both of these unachieved realities, we cannot establish absolute values. God the Absolute is the realization attainment goal of all super absonite beings. But the power and personality potential of the Deity Absolute transcends our concept, and we hesitate to discuss these realities, which are so far removed from experimental actualization. You know how we all have personalities and we all express ourselves differently? The three absolutes. When the combined thought of the universal Father and the eternal Son, functioning in the God of action, constituted the creation of the divine and central universe. The Father allowed the expression of his thought into the world of his Son, and the act of their conjoint executive by differentiating his Havona presence from the potentials of infinity. And these undisclosed infinity potentials remain space concealed in the unqualified absolute and divinely enshrouded in Deity Absolute, while those two become one in functioning of the universal absolute, the unrevealed infinity unity of the Paradise Father. Both potency of cosmic force and potency of spirit force are in process of progressive realization as the enrichment of all reality is effected by experimental growth and through the correlation of the experimental with the existential by the absolute, universal absolute. By virtue of the equipsupposing presence of the universal absolute, the first source and center realizes extension of experimental power enjoys, that's a tongue twister, Trinity. Infinity of divinity, that rhymes, is being ever enriched, if not enlarged, by infinity. Obscenity of creature and creator experience. Trinities are truths of relationship and facts of co-coordinate deity manifestation. Trinity function encompass deity realities, and deity realities always seek realization and manifestation in personalization. God the Supreme and God the Ultimate and even God the Absolute are therefore divine inevitables. These three experimental deities are potential in the existential Trinity, the Paradise Trinity, but their universe emergence as personalities of power is dependent in part on their own experimental functioning in the universes of power and personality, and in part on the experimental achievements of their post-Havana creators and trinities. Sorry, I have to sink into my chair. I'm in pain. Remember I was saying that we play a role? We have personalities. They have to do the same thing. The two post-Havana trinities, the ultimate and the absolute experimental trinities, are not now fully manifest. They are in process of universe realization. These deities associations may be described as follows. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to crack my neck. The ultimate trinity, now evolving, will eventually consist of the supreme being, the supreme creator personalities, and the absentite architects of the master universe, those unique universe planners who are neither creators nor creatures. God, the ultimate, will eventually and inevitably powerize and personalize all the deities' consequence of the unification of this experimental ultimate trinity in the expanding arena of the well-nigh limitless master universe. The absolute trinity, the second experimental trinity, now in process of actualization, will consist of God the supreme, God the ultimate, and the unrevealed consumator of universe destiny. This trinity functions on both personal and super-personal levels, even to the borders of the non-personal, and its unification in universality would experimentize absolute deity. The ultimate trinity is experimentally unifying in completion, but we truly doubt the possibility of such full unification of the absolute trinity. Our concept, however, of the eternal paradise trinity is an ever-present reminder that deity trinitization may accomplish what is otherwise non-attainable. Hence do we postulate that sometime appearance of the supreme ultimate and the possible trinitization, fractalization of God the absolute. The philosophers of the universe postulate of Trinity of Trinities, an existential experimental Trinity infinite, but they are not able to envisage its personalization. Possibly it would equivocate to the person of the universal Father on the conceptual level of the I am. I am. But irrespective of all this, the original Paradise Trinity is potentially infinite, since the universal Father actually is infinite. Mind-blowing. I'm going to read the acknowledgement. I think it's worth reading. In formulating the succeeding presentations having to do with the portrayal of the character of the universal Father and the nature of his paradise associates, together with an attempted description of the perfect central universe and the encircling 7 super universes, we are to be guided by the mandate of the super universe rulers, which directs that we shall, in all our efforts to reveal truth and coordinate essential knowledge, give preference to the higher existing human concepts pertaining to the subjects to be presented. We may resort to pure relevation only when the concept of presentation has had no adequate previous expression by the human mind. Successive planetary revelations of divine truth invariably embrace the highest existing concepts of spiritual values as a part of the new and enhanced coordination of planetary knowledge. Accordingly, in making these presentations about God and his universe associates, we have selected as the basis of these papers more than 1,000 human concepts representing the highest and most advanced planetary knowledge of spiritual values and universe meanings, wherein these human concepts, assembled from the God-knowing mortals of the past and the present, are inadequate to portray the truth as we are directed to reveal it. We will unhesitatingly supplement them for the purpose drawing upon our own superior knowledge of the reality and divinity of the paradise deities and their transcendent residual universe. We are fully cognizant of the difficulties of our assignment. We recognize the impossibility of fully translating the language of the concepts of divinity and eternity into the symbols of the language of the finite concepts of the mortal mind. But we know that there dwells within the human mind a fragment of God, and that there sojourns with the human soul the spirit of truth. And we further know that these spirit forces conspire to enable material man to grasp the reality of spiritual values and to comprehend the philosophy of universe meanings. But even more certainly, we know that these spirits of the divine presence are able to assist men in the spiritual appropriation of all truth, contrary to the enhancement of the ever-progressing reality of personal religious experience, God consciousness. Before I move on, so people question about mediums and prophets and intuits and all of that when it's all coming from above. It's coming from them. Yes, I'd hope so. I mean, I know for myself, I know where my information comes from. Above me. And for many just waking up, what's happening is in conjunction with Creator, knowing that our free will was infringed upon and are being helped by higher density beings of this local universe who are assisting with higher technology to blast us with plasma light codes and DNA enhancements so that we are able to take our meat suits into another level of consciousness without dying. Yep. Now, back to, we did the mystery of God, and now we're going to do personality of the universal Father. Do not permit the magnitude of God, his infinity, either to be obscure or eclipse his personality. He who planned the ear, shall he not hear? He who formed the eye, shall he not see? The universal Father is the acum of divine personality. He is the original and destiny of personality throughout all creation. God is both infinite and personal. He is an infinite personality. The Father is truly a personality, notwithstanding that the infinity of his person places him forever beyond the full comprehension of material and finite beings. God is much more than a personality, as personality is understood by the human mind. He is even far more than any possible concept of a super personality. But it is utterly futile to discuss such incomprehensible concepts of divine personality with the minds of material creatures who maximize concept of their reality of being consistent and the idea and ideal personality. The material creature's highest possible concept of the universal creator is the embraced within the spiritual ideals of the exalted idea of divine personality. Therefore, although you may know that God must be much more than human conception of personality, you equally well know that the universal Father cannot possibly be anything less than an eternal, infinite, true, good, and beautiful personality. God is not hiding from any of his creatures. He is unapproachable to so many orders of beings, only because he dwells in a light which no material creature can approach. The immensity and grandeur of the divine personality is beyond the grasp of the unperfected mind of evolutionary mortals. He measures the waters in the hollow of his hand, measures a universe with the span of his hand. It is he who sits on the circle of the earth, who stretches out the heavens as a curtain and spreads them out as a universe to dwell in. Lift up your eyes on high and behold, who has created all these things, who brings out their worlds by number and calls them all by their names. And so it is true that the invisible things of God are partially understood by things which are made today. And as you are, you must discern the invisible maker through his manifold and diverse creation, as well as through the revelation and administration of his sons and their numerous subordinates. Even though material mortals cannot see the person of God, they should rejoice in the assurance that he is a person, by faith accept the truth, which portrays that the universal Father so loved the world as to provide for the eternal spiritual progression of its lowly inhabitants, that he delights in his children. God is lacking in none of those superhuman and divine attributes which constitute a perfect, eternal, loving, and infinite creator personality. In the local creations, excepting the personal of the super universes, God has no personal or residential manifestation aside from the paradise creator sons, who are the fathers of the inhabited worlds and the sovereigns of the local universes. If the faith of the creature were perfect, he would assuredly know that when he had seen a creator son, he had seen the universal Father. In seeking for the Father, he would not ask nor expect to see other than the Son. Mortal man simply cannot see God until he achieves completed spirit transformation and actually attains paradise. Densities. Moving on up. The natures of the paradise creator sons do not encompass all the unqualified potentials of the universal absoluteness of the infinite nature of the first great source and center. But the universal Father is in every way divinely present in the Creator's sons. The Father and his sons are one. These paradise sons of the order of Michael are perfect personalities, even the pattern for all local universe personalities, from that of the bright and the morning star down to the lowest human creature of progressing animal evolution. He did say morning star. Without God, and except for his great essential person, there would be no personality throughout all the vast universe of universes. God is personality. Notwithstanding that God is an eternal power, a majestic presence, a transcendent ideal, and a glorious spirit, though he is all these and infinitely more. Nonetheless, he is truly and everlastingly a perfect creator personality, a person who can know and be known, who can love and be loved, and one who can befriend us. While you can be known as other humans have been known as the friend of God, he is a real spirit and a spiritual reality. As we see the universal Father revealed throughout his universe, as we discern him indwelling his myriads of creatures, as we behold him in the persons of his sovereign sons, as we continue to sense his divine presence here and there, near and afar, let us not doubt nor question his personality primacy. Notwithstanding all these far-flung distributions, he remains a true person and everlastingly maintains personal connection with the countless hosts of his creatures scattered throughout the universe of universes. Very intriguing. The idea of the personality of the Universal Father is an enlarged and truer concept of God, which has come to mankind chiefly through revelation. Reason, wisdom, and religious experience all infer and imply the personality of God, but they do not altogether validate it. Even the indwelling thought adjuster is pre-personal. The truth and maturity of any religion is directly proportional to its concept of the infinite personality of God and to its grasp of the absolute unity of deity. The idea of a personal deity becomes, then, the measure of religious maturity after religion has first formulated the concepts of the unity of God. Primitive religion had many personal gods, and they were fashioned in the image of man. Revelation affirms the validity of the personal concept of God, which is mere possible in the scientific postulate of the first cause and is only provisionally suggested in the philosophic idea of the universal unity. Only by personality approach can any person begin to comprehend the unity of God. To deny the personality of the first source and center leaves one only the choice of two philosophic dilemmas: materialism and pantheism. In the contemplation of deity, the concept of personality must be divested of the idea of corporality. A material body is not indispensable to personality in either man or of God. The corporality error is shown in both extremes of human philosophy. In materialism, since man loses his body at death, he ceases to exist as a personality. In pantheism, Since God has no body, he is not therefore a person. The superhuman type of progressing personality functions in a union of mind and spirit. Personality is not simply an attribute of God. It rather stands for the totality of the coordinated, infinite nature and the unified divine, which is exhibited in eternity and universality, a perfect expression. Personality, in the supreme sense, is the revelation of God to the universe of universes. God, being eternal, universal, absolute, and infinite, does not grow in knowledge, nor increase in wisdom. God does not acquire experience, as finite man might conjecture or comprehend, but he does, within the realms of his own eternal personality, enjoy those continuous expansions of self-realization, which are in certain ways comparable to and analogous with the acquirement of new experience by the finite creatures of the evolutionary worlds. Everything I just been saying. God experiences material world through us. The absolute perfection of the infinite God would cause him to suffer the awful limitations of an unqualified finality of perfectedness, were it not a fact that imperfect soul in the wide universe, who seeks by divine aid to ascend to the being and every mortal creature throughout the universe of universes, is a part of the Father's ever-expanding deity consciousness of the never-ending divine circle of ceaseless self-realization. God's only trying to realize itself. It is literally true, in all your afflictions, he is afflicted. In all your triumphs, he triumphs in and with you. His pre-personal divine spirit is a real part of you. The Isle of Paradise responds to all the physical metamorphosis of the universe of universes. The eternal Son includes all the spirit impulses of all creation. The universal Father realizes in the fullness of the divine consciousness all the individual experience of the progressive struggles of the expanding minds and the ascending spirits of every entity, being and personality of the whole evolutionary creation of time and space. And all this is literally true, for in him we all live and move and have our being. We are all special. And it doesn't matter what religion you follow, if any, because I don't follow any. We're all fractals of God. Just remember that. Personality in the universe. Human personality is the time-space image shadow cast by the divine creator personality, and no actuality can ever be adequately comprehended by an examination of its shadow. Shadow should be interpreted in terms of the true substance. Think about why all the spiritual people talk about healing your shadow self. Your subconscious. God is to science a cause, to philosophy an idea, to religion a person, even the loving Heavenly Father. God is to the scientist a primal force, to the philosopher a hypothesis of unity, to the religionist a living spiritual experience. Man's inadequate concept of the personality of the universal Father can be improved only by man's spiritual progress in the universe, and will become truly adequate only when the pilgrims of time and space finally obtain the divine embrace of the living God on paradise. Never lose sight of the anthropodal viewpoints of personality as it is conceived by God and man. Man views and comprehends personality, looking from the finite to the infinite. God looks from the infinite to the finite. Man possesses the lowest type of personality. God the highest, even supreme, ultimate, and absolute. Therefore, did the better concepts of the divine personality have patiently to await the appearance of improved ideas of human personality, especially the enhanced revelation of both human and divine personality in the Urantian bestowal life of Michael, the Creator's Son. The pre-personal divine spirit, which indwells the mortal and minds, carries in its very presence the valid proof of its actual existence. But the concept of the divine personality can be grasped only by spiritual insight of genuine personal religious experience. Any person, human or divine, may be known and comprehended quite apart from the eternal reactions or the material presence of that person. Some degree of moral affinity and spiritual harmony is essential to friendship between two persons. A loving personality can be hardly revealed himself to a loveless person. Even to approach the knowing of divine personality, all of man's personality endowments must be wholly consecrated in the effort. Half-hearted, partial devotion will be unavailing. The more completely man understands himself and appreciates the personality values of his fellows, the more he will crave to know the original personality, and the more earnestly such a God-knowing human will strive to become like the original personality. You can argue over opinions about God, but experience with him and in him exists above and beyond all human controversy and mere intelligent logic. The God-knowing man describes his spiritual experiences not to convince unbelievers, but for the edification and mutual satisfaction of believers. To assume that the universe can be known, that it is intelligible, is to assume that the universe is mind-made and personality managed. Man's mind can only perceive the mind phenomena of other minds, be they human or superhuman. If man's personality can experience the universe, there is a divine mind. Sorry about that. I had to pause. You might have heard my ringtone. My aunt called me, and I never know if it's an emergency. She's all the way down in Georgia. So yeah, I make sure I take those phone calls. So yes, I'm sorry. And I might have lost my place. Might have. But we're almost done with this part. The more completely man understands himself and appreciates the personality values of his fellows, the more he will crave to know the original personality, and the more earnest such a God-knowing human will strive to become like the original personality. You can argue over opinions about God, but experience with him and in him exists above and beyond all human controversy and mere intellectual logic. The God-knowing man describes his spiritual experiences not to convince unbelievers, but for the edification and mutual satisfaction of believers. I had to reread that. Because like the Law of One and all the other books I say, we're going to become a social memory complex, meaning we're all individual personalities and minds that will collectively be able to, if I have a recipe for something and someone wants it, they can just pick it out of the ether and get it. If somebody has a mathematical equation that I need to string all the universes and portals and stargates together, I can get that information, and it's everybody's information. It's free knowledge, but it comes from an individual. And once you understand the concept of knowing each other, because we are all mirror reflections experiencing each other, we'll be better off. To assume that the universe can be known, that it is intelligible, is to assume that the universe is mind, made and personality managed. Man's mind can only perceive the mind phenomena of other minds, but they human or superhuman. If man's personality can experience the universe, there is a divine mind and an actual personality somewhere concealed in that universe. God is spirit, spirit personality. Man is also a spirit, potential spirit personality. Jesus of Nazareth obtained the full realization of this potential of spirit personality in human experience. Therefore, his life of achieving the Father's will becomes man's most real and ideal revelation of the personality of God. Even though the personality of the Universal Father can be grasped only in actual religious experience, in Jesus, earth life, we are inspired by the perfect demonstration of such a realization and revelation of the personality of God in a truly human experience. Okay, I'm going to end it. Spiritual value of the personality concept. So I'll end this here after this section. When Jesus talked about the living God, he referred to a personal deity, the Father in heaven. The concept of the personality of deity facilitates fellowship. It favors intelligent worship. It promotes refreshing truthfulness. Interactions can be had between non-personal things, but not fellowship. The fellowship relation of Father and Son, as between God and man, cannot be enjoyed unless both are persons. Only personalities can commune with each other, albeit this personal communion may be greatly facilitated by the presence of such an impersonal entity as a thought adjuster. Man does not achieve union with God as a drop of water might find unity with the ocean. Man obtains divine union by progressively reciprocal spiritual communion, by personally intercourse with the personal God, by increasing, obtaining the divine nature through wholehearted and intellectual conformity to the divine will. Such a sublime relationship can only exist between personalities. The concept of truth might possibly be entertained apart from personality. The concept of beauty may exist without personality, but the concept of divine goodness is understandable only in relation to personality. Only a person can love and be loved. Even beauty and truth would be divorced from the survival hope if they were not attributes of a personal God of loving Father. We cannot fully understand how God can be primal, changeless, all-powerful, and perfect, at the same time be surrounded by an everlasting changing and apparently law-limited universe, an evolving universe of relative imperfections. But we can know such a truth in our own personal experience, since we all maintain identity of personality and unity of will in spite of the constant changing of both ourselves and our environment. Ultimate universe reality cannot be grasped by mathematics, logic, or philosophy, only by personal experience and progressive conformity to the divine will of personal God. Neither science, philosophy, nor theology can validate the personality of God. Only the personal experience of the faith sons of the Heavenly Father can effect the actual spiritual realization of a personality of God. The higher concepts of the universe personality imply identity, self-consciousness, self-will, and possibility for self-revelation. And these characteristics further imply fellowship with other and equal personalities, such as exists in the personality associations of the paradise deities. And the absolute unity of these associations is so perfect that divinity becomes known by indivisibly by oneness. The Lord God is one. Indivisibility of personality does not interfere with God's bestowing his spirit to live in the hearts of mortal men. Indivisibility of a human father's personality does not prevent the reproduction of mortal sons and daughters. This concept of indivisibility, in association with the concept of unity, implies transcendence of both time and space by the ultimacy of deity. Therefore, neither space nor time can be absolute or infinite. The first source of center is that infinity, who unqualifiedly transcends all mind and all matter and all spirit. The fact of the paradise Trinity in no manner violates the truth of the divine unity. These three personalities of paradise deity are in all universe reality, reactions, and in all creature relations as one. Neither does the existence of these three eternal persons violate the truth of the indivisibility of deity. I am fully aware that I have at my command no language adequate to make clear to the mortal mind how this universe problems appear to us. But you should not become discouraged. Not all of these things are wholly clear to even the high personalities belonging to my group of paradise beings. Ever bear in mind that these profound truths pertaining to deity will increasingly clarify as your minds become progressively spiritualized during the successive epochs of the long mortal ascent to paradise. Presented by Divine Counselor, a member of a group of celestial personalities assigned by the Ancient of Days on Urversa, the headquarters of the seventh super universe, to subverse those portions of this forthcoming revelation which have to do with affairs beyond the borders of the local universe, Nebadon. I am commissioned to sponsor those papers portraying the nature and attributes of God, because I represent the highest source of information available for such a purpose on any inhabited world. I have served as a divine counselor in all 7 of the super universes and have long resided at the paradise center of all things. Many times I have enjoyed the supreme pleasure of a sojourn in the immediate personal presence of the Universal Father. I portray the reality and truth of the Father's nature and attributes with unchallengeable authority. I know whereof I speak. Next time, I will tackle the nature of God. Because that's some juiciness right there. A lot of juiciness. But it's very interesting to, as I talk through all the videos about my perception and viewpoint of what we are and how we are and what goes on and what have you, it's pretty much spoken out in Urantia, just with more complicated words and concepts. And again, it's a being channeled through a person with limited language. So a lot of things are not as clear or is more grandiose in definition, but the message is the same. Paradise Sons, Paradise Sons, Paradise Sons, Paradise Sons. Somewhere there has to be some truth in these books. And it pretty much sounds like truth to me. So with that, I hope you enjoyed that first little chapter of Urantia and finishing up the forward. Again, if you want to help me out, all my information is in the Dropbox below. I'm at the end of the month. Any kind of help is better than nothing. A thumbs up helps. A prayer helps. Putting good intentions out there for me helps. I'm living in very, very scary times. I'm trying not to think about it. I'm trying to raise my vibration and keep in high vibes. But high vibes don't pay my bills. And until that, I mean, it's going to come down soon. It's just a matter of when. But in the meantime, these people are horrible that control our world. And I'm not getting any help from them. So any help from you guys, spreading the word, sharing, commenting is amazing. I love you guys for that. It makes me feel really good. Again, if you're interested in wanting to talk about any one of the books, I know a lot of people are very well studied in Awaspe and the Urantia books. Please come on and enlighten. You're not talking to me, you're talking to everybody. And that's the goal, is to educate everybody, give your point of view. There's no right or wrong. If you have any inkling of wanting to do that, please reach out to me. We'll set something up. I'm very excited over that potential. Otherwise, stay out of fear. Yes, there is real fear in terms of scary events that could possibly happen. But if you set in your head that you're going to react in a positive manner and know that everything will be okay, you'll be fine. Stuck up, if you have the means to do so, make sure you have what you need. things are going to get a little crazy. And I don't know what direction they're going to head in. I have a clue, but I'm not going to project that out into the ether just yet. I want everybody to be safe. High vibes. Raise that vibration. And I hope that I see you on the next one. I'm not sure which book I will read next. We'll definitely come back to Urantia. And hopefully I can keep my internet on. As I'm talking, guess what happens? The internet went down. The lights flickered off and on. Spirit's talking.